And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doing Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. Keep hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. It's great to see those numbers going up. I have a great episode coming for today. We're talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles. We are reviewing Week 1 against the Detroit Lions, and who else to do that with than my friend Thomas Petersen. Thomas, my man, how we doing?
We're doing good. 1-0. That's all we needed, right?
1-0, baby.
Doesn't matter how you get there, just as long as you don't lose your best player like the Steelers did. But
yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell we're 1-0 if you looked at the fan base right now. I'll tell you that.
Nah, it's crazy.
Yeah, the fan base is a little bit.
Did you believe? Just to quickly recap here. Did you believe when there was 38-35?
Did I believe?
Did you believe they win it when it was 38? Like when Lions just scored to 35-38.
I was worried Sirianni was going to punt the ball at the end. I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad that they ran the quarterback sneak on 4th and 1. If they punted that ball back to the Lions, then I was 100% sure that it was going to overtime.
Yeah.
Were you in the same boat?
I think it was good for me. It was good to see the Eagles winning with the ball in their hands. Like they didn't have to give it back to the Lions, and they were able to close it out in the end there. But I was starting to get really nervous because it just seemed like Lions offense were doing whatever they wanted there at the end, but basically throughout the entire second half.
Jared Goff doing that was an absolute dime to DJ Chark. Like Jared said, perfect coverage. Like,
he missed so many throws, and then he made that one.
Yeah, I know. Jared Goff didn't play a very good game. I think if there was even somewhat of a better quarterback, the Eagles lose that game. But we can definitely get into that. So Eagles win 38-35. They are officially 1-0 after beating the Detroit Lions in Detroit. A pumped up Detroit Lions crowd, which I think had something to do with it. But Thomas, let's start on the offensive side of the ball.
Yep.
And why don't we start with Jalen Hurts' performance? Thomas, what did you make of Jalen Hurts' first game in the 2022 season?
A tough game for him. I mean, a tough setting set up for him, and to actually keep the offense in it, because there were so many sloppy mistakes really all around. Everything from pre-snap penalties, 12 men on the field on offense, and false starts and delay of game and holding here and there. There were so many potential drive killers. Combine that with really an oddly confused offensive line. Lions were sending a ton of pressure, blitzing on 50% of the plays, and they were using there were a lot of uneven fronts with 3 guys on one side and then one end on the other, and they did a really good job of bringing the heat at Jalen Hurts. And they saw what happened with last season a little bit when you're bringing pressure for Hurts, and like we talked about in the Buccaneers game when they only brought 4 and they dropped everybody back into coverage. We thought that would be the template of how to beat Hurts, and they didn't. They brought the house on a lot of these plays. I think he did a really, really good job on first game of the season, and he looked sharp in his decision making. Extended a bunch of drives that really should have been killed due to free rushers. Had the beauty dime to AJ Brown down the field. So good to see. One of the plays where he was actually kept upright and there was really no pressure. Delivered like a beautiful pass there. It was the AJ Brown show, really. But I mean, he also had a couple of bootlegs where he had free rusher right in his face and still got it off to AJ Brown for another conversion. That was a beautiful throw as well. But it was just such an it was hard for Hurts to kind of get into a rhythm because the rhythm of the offense kept getting disrupted by batted passes, penalties, free rushers. So all of these things that they wanted to set up so many screens, and they only got like a handful off because everything else was batted or disrupted by penalties.
Yeah, they had 4 pre-snap penalties in the first half, so 4 false starts. That can't happen. And I think, do you think the crowd had something to do with that? Maybe a little bit. Like the Lions crowd was pretty loud.
Probably, and maybe it also has something to do with the miscommunication on the O line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the offensive line was not very good at picking up blitzes. Jason Kelce actually said that after the game. He said that they struggled with. It was pretty clear. There was always a free rusher. Not always a free rusher, but there was a good chunk of the time there was a free rusher kind of running at Hurts. And his scramble numbers kind of showed that. Like Jalen Hurts, of course, ran for 17 times for 90 yards, which is not what you want to see from a quarterback on a game-to-game basis. That's too many rushes. But my biggest takeaway from Jalen Hurts' performance is, yes, the throwing was great. The throwing wasn't great, but he made some good passes like that. That he dropped that into a basket to AJ Brown. AJ Brown said that basically fell from the sky. That was directly from AJ Brown after the game. I thought he made some pretty good tight window throws. He had a nice like slant route to AJ Brown in the Lions red zone that was like pinly perfect between two Lions defenders. He made some big time passes, but I think the biggest kind of thumbs up to Hurts in this game was he had 8 scrambles for 64 yards, and he had eight other rushing attempts for 28 yards. So 8 design runs for 28 yards, but 8 scrambles for 64 yards saved the game. If Jalen Hurts is not able to move out of the pocket well, Eagles don't win this football game.
Yeah, 100%. And also playing mistake-free football. That's something they've been preaching so much throughout the offseason, because this game was so tight that we already touched on. This game was so close that they couldn't afford to make turnovers in this game. And he didn't put the ball on the ground. He didn't throw anything that could have been intercepted. Like, he had 0 turnover-worthy plays according to PFF, and that really matches what we saw. So yeah, credit to him for really making as much as possible with what he was given in the offensive structure and like all the adversities we just talked about, and still putting up 31 points. I think that was the most satisfying thing. They pretty much scored at will. Like, there's a couple of drives that were killed, and I look back on the second half, and really when they were up 31 to
31-21. Was 31?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
before they scored to 21, Darius Slay drops the interception.
Yeah.
Like, he had a ball go right into his hands. That could have killed the game.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Lions go down. They score in that drive. Eagles get the ball back. It's 38-21. So that play that whole drive gets killed by penalties, a batted screen, AJ Brown not really looking like it was when he had the catch where he caught immediately and then got tackled on another tunnel screen, and then a scramble that didn't go for much, and then they punted. So really that was, and they were at a 2nd and 5 on that drive. They just continued. Like, if they could have limited the mistakes, the game would have been over.
Mm-hmm.
Darius Slay makes the interception, game would have been over. But really, they just kept both sides of the ball kept making some of these bad mistakes and not really making the most of the opportunities given to them, and that's what kept the Lions in the game.
Yeah, C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a holding penalty, I think it was, kind of towards the end.
Yeah, we'll get to him when we talk about the defense.
Yeah, I got a lot on the defense. I think another way to kind of look at this game was a story of third downs on both sides of the ball. Jalen Hurts on 3rd and 4th down was unbelievable. So just to take a look at some of his third downs: 3rd and 15 runs for 16 yards, 3rd and 6 runs for 10 yards, 3rd and 4 AJ Brown hits AJ Brown for 16 yards, 4th and 1 rushing touchdown, 3rd and 2 hits Dallas Goedert for 27 yards, 3rd and 3 AJ Brown for 54 yards, 3rd and 6 AJ Brown for 10 yards, 3rd and 2 Zach Pascal for 7 yards, 3rd and 4 runs for 5 yards, 4th and 1 to ace the game, quarterback sneak baby, gets that 1 yard. Jalen Hurts is unbelievable on 3rd and 4th down. He was money. And you had a great tweet about this on Sunday night, I believe. The Eagles won this game because of the quarterback play. And as much as you want to be able to rip sometimes, might have left the pocket too early, or he wasn't really good in the pocket yesterday or on Sunday, or the throws weren't there. Some people are giving that criticism. If Jalen Hurts isn't the starting quarterback of this team, they don't win that football game.
100%. And really, what were we talking about so much last season is that once Hurts gets into some of those scrambles, his mindset kind of switches a little bit, where it becomes one read and go. Like, if something isn't there, he'll just take off. And for him to be under as much pressure as he was early in the game, he stayed composed really throughout the game, and looked like he was in total command despite so much chaos going around him and the away game and all the crowd noise. Not like he looked in total control and was at no point rattled. Sure, you can go back and I'll get to this today. Hopefully today I'll have the Jalen Hurts all 22 breakdown coming up
Mhm.
here. Already saw the game again with the coaches view, and I counted 3 plays that were bad plays where he missed an open receiver down the field. But I didn't like, and of course this can maybe be a little bit of the factor Jason Kelsey mentioned, where when you're winning a game, you don't really criticize those as much because it was a win. But really, what I liked from Jalen Hurts in those situations is he made a decision. He made the call when he's scrambling out there. He already made up his mind. I have space in front of me. I can get the first down. I don't need to make this massive play and start and throw the ball. And what can happen then? Maybe you'll get a bigger gain there. But he just wanted to move the chains and keep moving the chains. When he got what was in front of him, he got what he wanted. He took off. And that's fine because that's the way he likes to play, and that is his style of playing. We'll just have to live with that. And ultimately, is also what won the game. So really can't complain about it too much. And then he, like you said, he bailed the offense out so many times with timely scrambles and converting 3rd and 15. I mean, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, like all these plays he made, and also did it with his arm. Zach Pascal throw, that was a really good pass as well. And found his guy AJ Brown. There's so much speculation about would they be able to actually get this connection going in games. First game, most yards by any receiver in their debut.
Oh yeah, we'll get to AJ Brown. He was absolutely unbelievable,
phenomenal.
It was so cool to watch him, man. Like he just looks different. He's built like a truck. He gives me Terrell Owens vibes a little bit from when I was a kid watching the Eagles.
He looks like a smooth DK Metcalf. Like he's got that thick build, but he's just so smooth when he's running.
Yeah, I think the press coverage stats. I think he had 100 yards against man coverage yesterday or on Sunday, which was second best in the entire NFL, only to Christian Kirk from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he was beating man coverage the entire day. And the Lions, I thought Jeffrey Okudah played a good game. We'll talk about the receivers in a sec. I have one more thing on Jalen Hurts before we move on from him. Just if you want to take a look at Jalen Hurts towards the rest of the league on week 1, he was great. Like he was 8th in QBR, which is pretty darn good for especially that style of game. And then just how efficient he was. Jalen Hurts was 6 out of 33 quarterbacks in week 1 in EPA per play. That's pretty darn good. He was in the top percentile of the league in efficiency. So he was one of the best quarterbacks in week 1. And that you have to compare his play to the rest of the league. And there you go. He was led one of the best offenses in the NFL in week 1. Okay, let's step back and take a look at the whole offense. So it was an AJ Brown game. That's how I'm going to kind of remember this one.
Yeah, it was the AJ Brown game, and really he did everything. Like every facet of the game, screen game, slants, outs, deep, did everything. Caught everything. Like you just had that feeling that whenever he targeted AJ Brown, he'd come down with it. There was that first series where he first tried Hurts tries to throw it to Devontae, and he kind of like nothing really happens, and you go like what happened? And then the next play, same thing, but with AJ Brown, and he doesn't catch it, and kind of that's when Lions really got that early momentum going. But other than that, it was perfect. Whenever he targeted AJ Brown, you just had the feeling he's going to catch it, and really that's gotta develop throughout the season. That on these blitz packages where teams are sending this much pressure, if you can't get out of it, just throw it for it. Like where AJ Brown is going, throw it there. Because I mean, there's a pretty decent chance he's coming down with it.
Are you worried at all about Devonta Smith and Quez Watkins not getting any catches in this game?
Nah, not at all. Not when you're looking at how messy the entire game was and how the entire offensive structure was. Because Devontae Smith had a signature Devontae Smith catch that was negated by a penalty on a holding call. That was a picture perfect. And then he had a drop there on the sideline. It could have been a toe tap catch. I mean, drop that one, and then two set up tunnel screens that were batted. That was for Devontae Smith. So it's not like I think the game really kind of just dictated it because it was so messy, and AJ Brown was just open like.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I don't really get this argument from everyone. Like, we got to get Devonta Smith his targets. We got to get Quez Watkins his targets. If AJ Brown is that good, then just feed AJ Brown. Like, who cares how you get the points on the board? In the end, if they start covering AJ Brown, if they start kind of bracket covering him and taking him away from the game, then Devonta Smith it opens up for him. Then it opens up for Quez Watkins. But if you have a guy that's dominating like that and has the hot hand, feed him the ball. Like I don't really understand this argument. And I will say this: I thought this was Devonta Smith's worst game as an Eagle. Like I don't think he played very well. Like I think Hurts had a couple back shoulder throws to him where he was kind of tied up. Jeffrey Okudah had his number all game. So the Lions considered Okudah as their second corner for some reason, even though I think he's their best. So he was kind of following Devonta Smith the entire game, and I just thought he got the best of him. He had, like you brought up, he had the big drop at the end, or not at the end, sorry, on the sidelines. I just don't think it was Devonta Smith's day, and I think that's fine. It happens. So I'm not worried at all. Devonta Smith is going to get his targets. He's too good of a football player not to get the ball in his hands, and Nick Sirianni knows that. So I'm not worried whatsoever about kind of the distribution of targets for this team.
And something's got to give because they had every single running back going. Dallas Goedert got his targets. He was close to scoring 2 times in this game as well. It was clear and obvious they wanted Jalen Hurts to run with the football with the way that they set up these read options where they had the tight end as the lead blocker for Hurts. Credit to Jack Stoll. He did a really good job of leading the blocks on those a lot of the time. Kenny Gainwell looked really good. Boston Scott looked really good. Miles Sanders looked really good. So it was just like when you put it up like that, you had Miles Sanders going, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, Dallas Goedert for some part, and AJ Brown. And like you can't feed everybody in a game where
football. There's only one ball.
Exactly. So I mean, and the offense worked. They put up 31 points, and like there was so many penalties, there was so much sloppiness. Still put up 31 points, and they had the running game going. Hurts looked in control. Overall, I was very pleased with the offense.
Exactly. Thank you. And I'm happy you put up the Kenny Gainwell clips on Twitter because I know you did that directly for me. I know it was kind of a subtweet to Brenden saying, "Look how 100%, good your boys looking." 100%. Yeah. So I appreciate that. And back to how good the offense looked. I gave out the stats to how good Jalen Hurts looked to the rest of the league. Let's take a look at how good the Eagles offense looked to the rest of the league. Mr. Thomas Petersen, the Philadelphia Eagles finished second in EPA per play in the entire NFL in week 1. They were the second most efficient offense in the league to only the Kansas City Chiefs, which this stat blows my mind. The Kansas City Chiefs had 0.435 EPA per play. They finished first. The Eagles had 0.261. So the Chiefs basically lapped the entire NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs were the best offense, and it wasn't even close. But the Eagles were 0.261, second most efficient offense in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills were third at 0.175. So they were pretty high above the third most efficient offense in the NFL. So I don't really understand the critique to the offense in this game. I thought the offense was great. The offense moved the ball efficiently, and they did their job. So I don't really understand the criticism that the offense is getting because if you just take a look to the rest of the league, they were great. They were second in the entire NFL. So the offense did its job, in my opinion, and the offense was moving the ball. And I thought it was a great sign week 1 that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown were connecting and that this offense in general won them the football game.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement on that.
Anything else on the offense or Jalen Hurts or anything else before we transition to the defense, which I bet we're both itching to talk about?
I think Jordan Mailata had a bad game. He looked confused. He let the whole slide protection of the offensive line looked weird. It didn't look like it was in sync until later in the game where it looked more coordinated between running back and the offensive line. But there was just a couple of plays where the entire offensive line slides right, and Mailata looks left, and a free blitzer comes in the B gap, and he's just left looking at. It was a messy game.
Yeah, the offensive line had a rough game. It was almost like, but I don't think like I noticed Len Dickerson didn't have a somewhat good game from the first watch. I don't know if that's exactly true, but it almost
he had some fuck ups as well. But it was most like for me it was more. Len Dickerson was good on those on the sweeps. Like when they had Boston Scott, Miles Sanders on the sweeps to the outside, and pulling Leighton Dickerson out, he was mauling people. Like he was really hitting them. Mailata just missed, and he looked confused a little bit when he was out there on the tunnel screens and all that. He just really didn't hit anybody. So I thought it was a stock down game, but I mean it's what happens. You'll get after it.
So Aiden Hutchinson I thought Lane Johnson had a pretty good game on Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson was 121 out of 122 edge defenders, according to PFF, which I thought wasn't interesting. So they shut him down, and he was their best pass rusher. So
He was. I mean, yeah. I think the whole defensive line scheme for the Lions looked good. I mean, these uneven fronts, and when they with the and then with the blitzer, it created like it. Had it been any other less mobile quarterback, maybe Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts are probably my guesses for quarterbacks in the league right now that would be able to escape that kind of pressure that was put on in this game. Because any other less mobile quarterback would have been sacked at least 5 times in this game.
Yes, more than that. Like Jalen Hurts' mobility saved the day, and I don't think he doesn't get enough credit for his rushing ability. Everyone's so hard on him for his passing ability, but his rushing ability is elite. He's like the one of if Lamar Jackson, I guess you can say he's the best rushing quarterback in the NFL, but Jalen Hurts is he's up there. He's second in my opinion. His rushing ability is
and that's kind of the thing you have to remember as well because this argument that he doesn't keep his eyes downfield when he's escaping out the pocket. I mean, it's fine if you want to make that argument, but then you also have to settle with the offense not converting as many third downs, because it really takes a snap decision for the quarterback to actually say, all right, I'm going to go through this myself and convert this down. Or you're going to kind of look for something, it gets delayed, you don't really get it, and then you're not in a pace fast enough to get that first down, or the defense closes in more quickly on you. When you're kind of looking, because you have to, if you're looking downfield, you also have to be in a position where you can pass. And if you're scrambling away from your throwing side, you also have to set up for that pass before you can actually get it off. So I can live with converting a ton of third and fourth downs if that doesn't mean that if that means that I'm skipping a few plays down the field. I'd much rather have the offense working more systematically and converting downs to keep the drives going, because I think they're more talented all around to sustain long drives, and they can put in any running back like they showed in this game, and they can have success. So it's not like they have to score within 5 plays or it doesn't work.
Yeah, their running back rotation, you can see that they want all 3 of them in the game, which I do like. I like how they can kind of keep them fresh. I guess we should shout out Miles Sanders. We gave him a little.
Yeah, we should.
He played really well. He looked good
too.
Yeah,
he played well. He looked decisive. He played through contact. He got more yards than really what was expected. Whenever he met contact, he kept driving for a couple yards, and he ultimately helped finish the game there at the end, along with Boston Scott.
Okay, I got nothing else on the offense. Are you ready to change over to the defense?
Yes.
Alrighty. So Eagles give up 35 points to the Detroit Lions. This conversation is probably going to be a little more dicey than the offensive conversation.
Not ideal.
Yeah, Thomas. I'll give the floor to you. What was your biggest takeaway from the Eagles defense?
How do you not defend a wham play 10 times? Like literally, any running back, DeAndre, like Swift, or like it doesn't matter who was the running back there. When you can put 3 offensive linemen to the second level like this, and then everybody else wham blocks, and there's a clear highway for the running back, it was the easiest defense to run against that I think I've seen we got to go back to the Buccaneers game back when. Do you remember that game with what was Doug Martin, who was smoking the Eagles time and time again?
I remember the Doug Martin game.
I had those vibes all over again, because it was the same bullshit all throughout the entire game. They had tight ends wham out Javon Hargrave 4 times. Like he was gone like this, and there was no hesitation. They got vertical immediately, and that cost them. And shout out to the Lions for sticking with that. I mean, they ran power and wham to put up 35 points, and then sprinkling a little bit of Jared Goff here and there. But it was a horrific defensive performance to not. And really, maybe it's Jonathan Gannon, maybe it's Tracy Rocker. I don't know. I mean, because the defensive line just they flat out sucked in this game.
100%. They were brutal. And I like you brought up, like, how do you not kind of stop that wham play 10 times? I don't know if this is true. I haven't watched the All-22 yet. You've got a taste of it. It almost looked like they sat in that they played a 4-2-5 front for a lot of the game. And that 4-2-5 front was terrible. Like when they had 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs, the Lions were able to do whatever they wanted on the run game.
Yeah.
And was it I don't know if this is a coincidence, but Jordan Davis only played in odd fronts. So a bear front, so 5 defensive linemen front. They can't get their 13th overall pick on the field unless they're in an odd front. That can't happen. He has to be able to play some sort of 3 technique style defensive line front. It doesn't make any sense. The 4-2-5 front was awful. The Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, when they were defensive tackles in this game, they got run over. Like, they got destroyed. They both had really bad games.
Yeah.
The run
Fletcher
defense,
Cox was getting mauled.
Yeah. And like, when you have that front, Avonte Maddox is the guy that's coming in to kind of be the third run defender after the linebackers. You can't have a 185-pound Avonte Maddox coming in like that. Like, something's got to give here. This is what's very frustrating. And I know I'm already off to a rant. We've just started talking with the defense, but I hate Jonathan Ganton's scheme. Like, I hate it. It's not working. We have a large enough sample size right now. We have 17 regular season games and a playoff game from last year, and now 1 game from the season where this defensive scheme that Jonathan Ganton is deploying is just not working. It is not good. There's nothing beneficial from it. The one that's really pissing me off, what's really frustrating, is the pressure stats. The Eagles are not getting after the quarterback. They're not. Like, they had 1 sack yesterday, a combined sack from Graham and Fletcher Cox. Besides that, Goff was sitting back there. He was able to do. If the Eagles, I said this earlier in the podcast, the Eagles played a better quarterback, they lose this football game. Jared Goff was bad. He didn't make a lot of good passes. He missed a lot of good throws. If they played Kirk Cousins, who they're going to see on Monday, they lose this game. It was I don't want to overreact to week 1, but I'm worried about this defense.
Yeah,
Are you?
And it was sticking with the defensive line just for a little bit. It's bad when Marlon Tuipulotu was the best defensive lineman on the field, and he was.
Yeah, he was. He actually had a pretty good game. But so Jordan Davis was 5th in defensive tackle snaps. So Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Milton. I guess you can Milton Williams, I guess, is categorized as defensive tackle, right? But he doesn't really play the 3 technique or the 1 technique. But Jordan Davis had 22 snaps on the field. When he was on the field, they averaged 2.9 yards per carry. When he wasn't on the field, they averaged 10.3. So look, that's you can't really, if you just look at it in the vacuum, yeah, it's terrible. I guess you can't really look at it that way. But I'm worried about the defense.
It doesn't make any sense when you're getting mauled over in the running game, and you stick with your front and you stick with the amount of defensive backs, and you have this much depth in your D line, and you're saying, okay, they can line up 6 on the line, 5 on the offensive linemen and a tight end. They can wham block us out and have 3 on the linebackers. All right, what do you do to prevent that? You take one of your defensive backs out and you put one other defensive lineman in, because then when you're releasing up from the wham blocks, you have one free defender who can always get into the running back. And so, like, why don't you put up a nose tackle in Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, and Javon Hargrave, and you put out two stand-up ends in a 5 technique, like right across from the tackles or at the tight end? Because then there's not enough guys to pull, like to do the wham con. It doesn't make sense.
I wanted to ask you this question. You would know more about this than me. Can this defense live in an odd front? Like, can they make an odd front there?
Not when you're going up against Deuce Staley, who clearly had the entire defensive line. Now, credit to Deuce Staley. I assume he's the one coordinating the running game for the Lions, because we saw him on Hard Knocks really dictating every hole that these running backs needed to go through, and kind of looked very much in sync with the offense coordinator. Anyways, credit to him, because he just kept doing the same thing. It was a good scheme. They executed it very nicely, perfect. You can't stick in an odd front if that's what you're going against.
So
you have to blitz. That's the other. I mean, yeah.
Can the Eagles live in a 3 or 5 man front? Can that be Gannon's bread and butter? Can it happen? Because as of right now, the Eagles are not playing their 13th overall pick, who they traded up for, in any other front, and that's worrisome to me. So I don't really know where this goes.
It didn't work much better in the 4-man front when they had.
No, the 4-man front was terrible. That's my point. Can they get the 3 and the 5-man front was the only thing that was working for this team. And look.
You invest this much in the D line, put 5 out there.
And there's too much talent on this defense for them not to get pressure and for them not to be good. That's what's very frustrating about this. This
Yeah.
is a very talented defense. There's a lot of money on this defense. The Eagles have $80 million combined to Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. They've given those contracts over the last year, and they had them dropping into coverage like a bunch of times. Like, why is Josh Sweat dropping in coverage? He looked completely lost on that one play where Josh Sweat kind of turned around. He was kind of running with, I can't remember who, I think it was it Josh Reynolds or Cleve Raymond? And then the ball's like, run defender's running completely right by him. After he's like, oh, I had some good coverage here. But like, there's no point of Josh Sweat dropping in coverage. It doesn't make any sense. Hassan Reddick was a pass rusher on 21 of 26 dropbacks. Josh Sweat was a pass rusher on 26 of 28 dropbacks. It needs to be 100% here. There's no reason for those guys to be in coverage. It just doesn't make any sense. You can say, oh, it's for the beneficial of the entire defense. No, it's not. This defense isn't working. Earlier in the podcast, I brought up the stats compared to the rest of the league. Let's take a look how the defense did the rest of the league. They were 27th out of 32 in EPA per play in the entire league in defense. There was only been Sunday's performance against the Lions. That was Jonathan Gannon's second worst defensive performance since starting as an Eagles defensive coordinator, according to the EPA per play metric. It's just not working. Whatever Jonathan Gannon is deploying, whatever the scheme is he's using, it's not working. Something has to change here, and I don't know what that's going to be. But like I said, Thomas, I'm worried. I'm worried about this defense.
Yeah, I mean, you can also put on the other, like, you can also say they have how many new players on the defense. James Bradbury, Marcus Epps didn't really play that significant amount of snaps last season. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's new to the defense. Casey White's new to the defense. Hassan Reddick. So they had a lot of new guys in there as well. So you can hope it's simply a question of executing the scheme. I think.
Do you believe in your heart that's what it is?
Nah, but you could put on. I mean, you can choose to believe that. It's a valid argument, I'd say. When you have that many new faces in there. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Devontae Maddox were horrible in the running game. They missed both 4 tackles.
The tackling was bad.
Tackling was bad. You can also make the case maybe it's a product of a soft training camp. Maybe. I don't know if I buy that. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. Like I'm worried. Like it's week 1 overreaction, and we probably need a little bit more of a sample size. But there's no
surprise. This is what we were talking about when we were talking about Jonathan Gannon. I mean,
no, for sure.
And nothing's new. This I think the worrying thing is that this was just more of the same from last year.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a large enough sample size here from just adding on this to last year, where like the proof of concept's there. It's not working.
No.
What this is maybe crazy. Like I might be doing WIP talk here, but do you think there's any chance that
that's a thing?
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance that Jonathan Gannon doesn't last the season? Like any percentile chance?
No.
Yeah, I don't think that. I agree. I think he's here for
unfortunately. But no, I don't think they're going to change coordinators mid-season. I don't see that really, because I think the offense is going to be good enough that this team is going to be in contention all throughout the season, and I think it's just going to be a matter of surviving on defense, and then Jalen Hurts and all the surrounding talent on offense elevating the team, and I think they have a very clear path of doing so. If this is what they're already putting out in week 1.
So some positives. I thought Sweat and Bradbury played pretty well on the edge. Like the pass defense was fine.
Casey White played pretty well as well, especially in the passing game. Now naturally, there's linebackers always look bad when you have free blockers coming from the line. I mean that's really that's a concept you got to live with. Either you have free rushers on the linebacker or free blockers on the linebacker, and then your defensive line make the plays. Or you have defensive linemen that kind of eat up all the blocks, and your linebackers make plays. And this was the kind of game that there were offensive linemen in the face of TJ Edwards and Kaiser White from the get-go on every single running play. So I can't really fault them too much. I would expect the D-line to make the plays then. It's kind of opposite than what we expected. We thought that the D-line would kind of eat up everything, and then the linebackers can make plays. Turns out that you can just, you can kind of whip the Eagles D-line, and then you have guys free up on the linebackers. So I didn't expect that, but I mean, I can't really fault Kaiser and TJ too much, and I think they played well in coverage, both of them.
I'm actually excited. I'm gonna get my hands on this all 22 on defense. I want to dive into more. I want to see what this scheme. I want to shred Jonathan Gannon's scheme a little bit more. If that makes sense. I want to mess up my week even more by looking at the defensive scheme. I don't really have much else on the defense. Do you? I think we said it made everything pretty clear.
Yeah.
Is there any big?
I got one clip I haven't shared yet. Frank Ragnow obliterating Jordan Davis, like smoking Jordan Davis.
Oh man. Yeah, you didn't make a lot. There was one run play I saw a clip on Twitter. I think Clay Harbor posted it, where Jordan Davis did a really good job of following the running back.
He followed the entire line toward the line of scrimmage.
I think the run defense is just going to be better when he's on the field the majority of the time, right? And it was his first NFL game, so look, I can kind of
Frank Ragnow. He's probably the second best center in the NFL.
Yeah, and
I mean that guy.
And I can buy the limited snaps, but what's really frustrating about it is they clearly don't trust him in a 4-man defensive front. And that's worrisome. If you can't get your 13th overall pick on the field in a 4-man defensive front, like, you've got problems. They need to figure out a way to get him on the field more and more packages. He can't be a specific package type player.
Nah, especially when the guys you're having out there aren't really producing. I mean, exactly. Fletcher Cox is at the point of his contract now where if he's not playing well, he shouldn't be on the field.
Yeah. He's only on a 1-year deal. They got nothing locked up to him except for this year. And
they don't owe him anything.
I said it had to be. I know this might be like Fletcher Cox can definitely bounce back, but the Fletcher Cox thing was an odd signing, the way it all kind of played out like this year. Like, it was kind of an under-talked about storyline this offseason where they've let him go for cap situations and he comes back on a 1-year kind of juiced up contract. It was a really weird summer for Fletcher Cox and the Eagles. So he's definitely a player to keep an eye on because I feel like he's getting under-talked about now. Like, he deserves some, well, maybe not criticism, but he needs to step up and he needs to play better. Like, he didn't play very well last year either. But okay, I got nothing else on the defense.
No, I think we hit on it pretty much.
Any big picture thoughts from this game before we get out of here? And we could touch on the Vikings, I guess. We talked about
pull up the WIP. Should they have?
Yeah.
Vic Fangio's number on speed dial.
I don't really have any big picture thoughts. I didn't really take much away. The big picture thoughts is on the defense. I don't really have much else. Nick Sirianni's offense looked sort of creative, and I liked that.
This is Jalen Hurts' team, and he's carrying it right now.
Yes.
That is encouraging as fuck.
Yes. He won them the game. He doesn't play not many other quarterbacks win that game if he's the quarterback of the Eagles.
Big picture, we talked all offseason about how the talent is so good around Jalen Hurts. If he can only not be the one making mistakes, they will win. And he just, in the first game, he goes out and carries the entire thing to a victory when everybody else, for the most part, maybe except A.J. Brown, really lacks. Yeah. A.J. Brown and the running backs and the offensive line in the running game. Those were them carrying the team, and 100% Jalen Hurts.
I like it, baby. Okay, I think that's it. Eagles play Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. We'll try to squeeze in another episode before that to preview the Vikings. Really looking forward. Thomas, you are dropping a Jalen Hurts breakdown on your YouTube channel?
Yep, hopefully today, and if not so, then tomorrow evening.
So make sure to check that out. Make sure to subscribe to Thomas' YouTube channel. He does a great job throughout the season of doing all 22 breakdowns. They're one of my favorite video contents that come out for the Eagles.
Thanks, Brenden.
For doing that. Oh, that's what I'm here for, man, to gas you up. But again, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel as well, Thomas' YouTube channel. Again, make sure to watch the Thomas' clips. Make sure to hit the subscribe button on the Double Doing Podcast. I interviewed Steve Weiss of NFL Network yesterday. It was a pretty cool interview. Really like him. So you want to go.
You're getting all the big fish, Brenden.
Yeah, I know. It's happening, man. It's cool. I've been able to talk to a lot of cool people over the last year, and I'm very grateful. And there's a lot more cool guys coming. I've got an Eagles interview set up it's going to happen throughout the year, which I will tell you after this, that I'm really looking forward to. And I got another one for later in the year for me and you to interview, but that will be kind of in the time I've already.
I don't even know what that is.
I told you about this one already.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. I got it.
So they got back to me. The agent said November time, but it will come, and I'm really looking forward to that one. Thomas will be me and you will be doing our first player interview. But yeah, tons of good content on this YouTube channel coming your way all season. So again, make sure to hit the subscribe button. But again, we will